Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Fight fans worldwide, you've tuned into the #1 undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Mark Roxy.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Boxing Breakdown. Very, very happy to be here today, and thank the Lord for another day on the planet. And man, there's so much going on in boxing. I hope everybody got a chance to watch this week's events on Top Rank and also on Showtime. There have been some great matchups, and I've just been really delighted with the level of competition and the stuff that's been going on in the boxing world. So today I'm going to get right to it, right? First of all, welcome and thank you for being here. And I have a really interesting guest this week. The gentleman's name is Mr. Brutal Brendan Barrett. And Brendan Barrett is a professional MMA fighter and boxer, and he has over 40 fights to his credit on his resume. This is a gentleman who has spent much of his adult life learning the art of boxing and of ground and pound, and he learned on the job. And he started a little bit late in the sport. But really the purpose of this podcast is to have him on because he's going to talk a lot about his journey in the sport of boxing. And he's going to basically provide to those of you out there that are listening, that listen to the podcast for the educational content, young fighters and fighters looking for a way forward to understand the do's and don'ts of the sport and what to watch out for. And this gentleman, Brutal Brendan Barrett, is going to share with you his personal journey into the sport. He'll retell some very powerful stories of his crossroads, some crossroads that he had to make in his life, and what he faced during those crossroads, as well as the good, bad, and the ugly of the sport, man. It's quite an interview. I really enjoyed it because I was feeling like having him on would really help those of you out there listening in. And, you know, after all, that's what I'm out to do, is to make a difference in the lives of others, including you listening to the podcast, to give you a little deeper understanding of what goes on in the sport and what to watch out for in the sport. So yeah, man, let me just tell you a little bit about Brutal Brendan Barrett, right? He was born in Philadelphia, PA, but he spent almost his entire life in New Jersey. Since as far back as he could remember, he played one sport or another with a strong interest in competing. He was always interested in finding the competition in everything, right? He played soccer, baseball, tennis, track, rugby, football, and his personal favorite, wrestling. He had been on sports teams practically since he could walk. Barrett attended high school at Pinelands Regional High School in New Jersey, where he narrowed the field of sports down to basically just playing football in the fall, wrestling in the winter, and then doing track and field in the spring. After graduating, Brendan continued his education at Muhlenberg College in Pennsylvania, where he further narrowed his sports down to just wrestling. He graduated with a double major in accounting and business administration, with a minor in finance. And then after college, he noticed that, he was, there was a major hole in his life, and he was missing out on competing as he did earlier on in his life. And he realized, and then decided to find a sport to fill the void. After much thought and consideration, he decided that he wanted to basically train and compete in mixed martial arts and boxing. Prior to his, prior to the most recent 1.5 year layoff that he's just coming out of a 1.5 year layoff from both boxing and MMA, and training out with Freddie Roach and some folks out in California. He was training in Muay Thai, Ju-Jitsu, boxing, and, Brendan is quoted as saying that despite how violent some fights get, there's always one common element carried among all of the fighters, and that's basically respect. And, when I did the interview, I could really feel that, not just respect toward me, but also respect toward the sport and his own journey, the trials and tribulations that he kind of went through in his own journey. So I really enjoyed it. And without further ado, I would like to welcome in to the studio Brutal Brandon Barrett. What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's up, Mark? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, bro. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Just trying to stay sane with everything going on these days.
Oh my gosh, everything that's going on. What is going on? What's going on with you?
Just getting back into shape after a long layoff, and avoiding people just to, stay safe, and just kind of keep pushing forward.
Yeah. So are you even in the gym now?
I've been starting to do some some cardio, some body weight workouts and stuff like that on my own. It's a little tougher out here in California as far as gyms. But it's been about a 1.5 year layoff, so trying to get things moving again.
Yeah, for the folks that are listening in, this episode is being recorded in February of 2021, and so Brutal Brandon Barrett is talking about COVID-19 and how difficult it is out in California. Obviously, each area of the country is experiencing a little bit of a different reality as it relates to athletes being able to train. And so in California, it's just really not conducive right now to really training. Is that right?
Yeah, I've heard, some of the boxing gyms are open, but there's lots of regulations. And even the gym I've been training at, I stopped in there to catch up with everybody because I haven't been in the gym in over about 1.5 years, if not more. And, I literally, when I stopped in, he's like, I'm just so swamped right now because 2 of the other trainers are out with COVID this week. And I'm like, wow.
Right.
So, yeah, it seems like it's just getting passed around. I'm not so much worried about myself getting it, I'm just worried about giving it to anybody else.
Yeah, no.
If I did get it,
Absolutely. Do you have any elderly people that you live close by or with?
There's always some around.
Yeah.
But it's I've got avian flu back in the day. I was training in Oregon for one of my MMA fights, and I guess from training in Oregon and flying back before the flight, I must have gotten avian flu when it was going around.
Wow.
And I started getting sick the night of the fight, and I was like, why is my blood pressure through the roof? Why is my kidneys hurting? Why are my legs cramping up? And I actually was backed out of the fight because I'm like, it's kind of a make or break where I was at the moment. And, and then like 5 minutes before the show started, I was like, you know what, forget it, man. I'm just going to fight. I'm just going to get this fight over quick, and luckily I was able to get in and out of the fight. I think it was the second round. I ended up choking him out because he came charging in at me. And the next day I had 104, 105 degree fever and was sick for quite some time.
Wow. So check this out. So, well, first of all, where are you living? Are you out?
Right now, I'm out in Ventura, California.
Check it out. That's not so bad. Those are pretty cool digs. And then,
Yeah.
How did you find your way out there? What led you out there?
Honestly, I was just Freddie Roach initially. I was always looking to go train with him because obviously he's one of the best trainers in the world. As I was transitioning through MMA to boxing, and I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna go out there. I booked my plane ticket, and then out of nowhere one night, I look at social media and realized Freddie Roach is in Atlantic City for a fight that was down there that weekend. So I was like, well, he's sitting there with Peter Manfredo, and Peter Manfredo, I met him a couple years prior. So I was like, he knows who I am. I was like, I'm going down to weigh-ins, and I saw Peter, he remembered me. We hadn't seen each other for a while, and we only saw each other once. And, but he remembered me. He introduced me to Freddie personally, and I was like, talked to him for a bit. And I was like, actually, I'm already on my way. I'll be out in your gym in 2 weeks. He goes, all right, I'll look forward to it. And I went out there, and it was absolutely amazing. And I got a couple sessions with him, and one session with him is like 2-3 months with some other trainers.
Oh, for sure.
And I was looking to make my move and go train at his gym. But ironically, while I was down in Atlantic City, one of the guys worked for the promoter, overheard me talking to Freddie Roach, and goes, "You're a heavyweight looking to go out to California?" He goes, "Do not leave without my card." And I'm like, oh, all right, cool. I mean, how many times do fighters always hear something like that? So I just kind of was like, all right, cool. But then Freddie and Peter needed a ride with their fighter. They were down there with Toka Khan. And I'm like, oh, I got you guys. Don't worry about it. So I brought them over to a restaurant so they get some food after weigh-ins. I totally forgot to get the guy's card. Then I was like, you know what? I'm like, I wasn't planning on going to the fight. And then as they were getting out of the car, Peter was like, oh, you going to the fight? So I'm like, maybe, And he's like, oh, let me see if I can get you a ticket. I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I said, if you can or you can't, cool. Either way, I'll be there. So I go to the fight the next night. I'm walking into Boardwalk Hall. And what are the odds that I'm walking into Boardwalk Hall, which is not a small place, and the guy that worked for the promoter saw me, came sprinting across the whole entrance area, the Boardwalk Hall. It's a massive area if you haven't ever been there. Saw me, said, "Here's my card. Call me." Yeah. He ended up being in the gym and working with Joe Janik or Haas, who trained Victor Ortiz and Andrew Cancio, who just I guess last year, a year and a half ago or so, beat what's his name? The guy was blowing through everybody. I'm brain farting right now.
That's okay.
But he ended up knocking him out and taking his belt.
Wow.
And he was a world champion and stuff. So, he's been doing his thing for a long time. And the guy was like, well, when you're coming out here, let me know. He drove down to LA, picked me up, drove me to Ventura, had a training session with Haas, and just really kind of clicked, and went back to LA, kept training at Freddie's gym. And then my buddy that flew out there with me, talk about a good friend to have on a trip with you, wanted to mark something off his bucket list, so he rented a Lamborghini. So we took the Lamborghini and drove back up to Ventura and trained with Haas again. And then the plan was initially to, move out there and train between both gyms. But by the time I got out here, I found a place to rent. I was able to get across the country and all that, figure out all the logistics. It was just too much. And I got into the gym out there at Knuckleheads with Haas and just kept training there.
All right. Well, I got to tell you a couple of things that really clicked out to me just now. Number one, I think you didn't mention what fight it was that all happened, but I think I was there. I think I was at that fight with you.
I think you were too. I think I remember seeing you there. It was the Holyfield fight, Real Deal Promotion.
Yeah, because I had a fighter who fought, Alejandro Jimenez fought on that card.
Yep. He fought on the undercard. Yep, yeah. I do remember that.
He fought against, shout out, Dallas Holden in a absolutely amazing barn burner of a fight. I remember that day. And I remember Toka Khan was there. And Freddie was there, and I remember that succinctly. So when you started saying that, I was like, oh, snap, that's the fight. That was a fight that I was at. So that's amazing. And you know who else was there is Britton Hart, who I also train. And Britton Hart, I had a death in our family. My wife's father passed away, and Britton actually finished out the end of her training camp at that Knuckleheads gym that you just mentioned with Haas.
Yep.
And
Actually, I haven't met her yet, but I've seen her on social media. She's out there. Yeah.
yeah, so she left training with me because of a death in my family, and she went out there to finish up her training camp for the fight against Paige Van Sant. So look at that, man. We got a lot in common there.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even realize that. I saw you post something about her on social media, and I'm like, oh, that seems like a small world. I had no idea you were training her.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't really been paying attention to social media much. The
Yeah,
last year and a half has been a bit of a blur, so I've been keeping a low profile, kind of keep my head down.
you know, it's funny because I do too. I keep a low profile. You know, I work in stealth. I train a lot of fighters, and you know, kind of just move around without too much accolades or really interest in any of that. I'm just really a pugilist and interested in the sweet science and developing fighters, you know, to get them to the top level. So I don't really, you know, I'm not really too interested in all those accolades, although I sure would have loved to have been with my dear Britton Hart out there for that fight. Cause we just, man, she just put it together and it was so wonderful to watch. And to the point where, you know, I sat on my couch the night of the fight and I was thinking, holy shit, I should be there. And I just like broke down, man. I was really emotional about her win. I was so happy for her. So yeah, man. So, what's your plan for getting back into the gym? Talk to me about that.
Oh, well, first, I'm sorry about your loss, but I can imagine the emotions with that. It's got to be overwhelming when a big fight like that on a new stage and a new platform in the bare knuckle boxing.
Oh, dude, it was I'm still not quite over it emotionally. And of course, you know, Britain means the world to me, and I believe I mean the world to her as her trainer. And I think that was really a hard pill to swallow all around, you know? So, but yeah, man, hey, you know, shit happens. You know what I mean? Like shit doesn't happen for a reason. It just happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way it goes sometimes.
It really does, brother. It really does. But I want to know when you're getting back into the gym. That's what's up.
Well, first I figured before I'm going to go into a gym and waste a trainer's time or anyone's time, I'm going to make sure that I'm in shape myself on my own. I mean, a lot of my training camps I've even trained myself, so it's not it's not it's foreign that I've done that or I'm used to doing that.
Yeah.
But it's a lot different when I'm on the other side of the country without the vast network of people and friends and relationships I have, where I can go to numerous different states, pick up a phone, and go train at numerous different gyms.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm out here, and obviously with all the COVID, a lot of places are shut down. A lot of gyms, even the different workout gyms are going out of business and stuff. It's I just don't have that same network.
Yeah.
But I've been kind of doing my own thing. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling pretty strong. Now it's just a matter of just figuring out between Haas's schedule and mine, when we can sit down, go over some stuff and how to make some plans and go from there.
Yeah, man, for sure. That's right. I'd love to see you back in the ring. And definitely if you come up to the East Coast, I'd be happy to work with you and we could kick it around a little.
Absolutely.
Yeah, bro, for sure. So how would you, like, for the listeners that are listening in, right? I want to kind of go through your record, your professional boxing record, because not only, folks, he's not only a boxing, pugilist, he's also an MMA mixed martial arts fighter as well. And so trying to put together how many fights you actually had or have had in your recent past is very, it's not the easiest thing. I count roughly, I don't know, maybe like, do you have like 18 fights or 18 fights in MMA?
Honestly, I don't even know how many fights I had. I
Yo,
think it's about 30 almost, give or
okay.
take.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I didn't even have an amateur career. You want to talk about the weirdest, most bizarre route into a career of fighting.
I do want to
I
talk
was in
about that. I do want to talk about that with you, actually.
yeah, I was in college. Was really sure what I wanted to do, but I figured, you know what? I was going to be a veterinarian, but then it dawned on me, I got to deal with all the sick animals. I got to put animals down. I got to deal with all that. And
Yeah.
as
A lot of
funny as it
death.
sounds, yeah, as funny as it sounds, is I'm too sensitive for that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, especially for being a fighter, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to carry that home. And you know, and you always hear people like, you know, my animal needs a surgery. It's going to be, you know, $1,200. I'm just going to put him to sleep. And, you know, if I know I could save something, I'm not going to just put it to sleep,
Yeah, for
you know? So I'm
sure.
like, I'm never going to make any money. I'm like, so maybe I should really rethink this, you know?
And then you went into
So
something else that you really don't make that much money in either. Right?
yeah, well, I ended up going, you know what? I was like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I'm still in college. You know, I'm really smart. So I was like, you know, I don't know what I want to do, but accounting is the backbone of business. So I'm like, all right,
That's right.
I'll major in accounting, even though I didn't like accounting. And then I'm like, you know what? I was like, I can double major. So I double majored in business administration, and then basically ended up, I took so many classes, I got basically a double major in those two, and then a minor in finance. So I'm like, all right, so I have an extensive business background. Now
Right.
I'm like, I still don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to graduate soon. Got to do something. So I'm like, you know
Wow.
what? Why don't I go to law school? I still don't know what I want to do, but if I get my CPA, because I had my 150 credit hours for accounting to sit for it,
Right.
and I go to law school, I said I could be a CPA attorney. Maybe I can go get an MBA after that because school wasn't hard for me. And I'm like, I just put a bunch of acronyms behind my name. I'll eventually figure something out, you know? And that was the plan.
Wow.
And my senior year, my first semester was halfway over, and my second semester was going to basically be a ton of electives. I made sure that I finished my double major and my minor by, except I think like one requirement I needed, which I think was like a history class. Other than that, my second semester senior year was going to be like sculpting, drawing, like, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
a basket weaving. Like I was
Right.
like,
Oh,
you know what? I'm going
right.
to take a break,
Right.
you know, and
Gen eds. They call them Gen
exactly,
eds.
you know, and I was sitting, it was getting ready for my midterms, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. Took a drive over to the pet store. I'm like, let me go see the animals, walk around, you know, pet some animals, and get some cigars or something for a cigar, study break, you know. And I'm driving back. I stopped at a red light, and I'm sitting there at a red light, and a girl picking up her cell phone plowed into the back of me at full speed and drove me into the car in front
Oh,
of me. So I tried finishing up college, but
what?
my back was so messed up, I couldn't, you know, sit for more than like 30, 35 minutes at a time. And I was on all these painkillers and muscle relaxers, so I couldn't concentrate. So I ended up, excuse me, getting about halfway through my second semester senior year, and I had to take a medical withdrawal. I was like,
Wow.
I just can't focus. I can't do it.
Yeah, I got it.
So
I got that.
yeah, so at that point, I was like, you know what? I have almost a degree, minus a couple classes, but I used up all my financial aid, all my
Wow.
scholarship money. Where do I go from here? You know, and I was trying to make some money to get back to college. And I even really toyed with the idea of going back all over again for veterinary school.
Right.
But it just became a real uphill battle. I just kept hitting a lot of roadblocks, and I started getting depressed. And I said, you know, what's the one thing that ever made me happy in life? And the only thing I could come up with was competing. So I was like, all right, well, how am I going to do that? You know? And everyone for years always kept telling me, oh, you see this MMA, this UFC stuff, man, you got to do this. You got to do this. And I'm like, nah, those guys are crazy. That's not me. You know,
They
I
are
was like,
crazy.
yeah, I was like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I'm like, they're like, yeah, you know, but I've always been an athlete and a bigger guy. You know, some of the other jobs I had was, you know, doing security as a bouncer.
Right.
And every time there's some really rough situations, everyone would be like, man, you got to fight, man. You got to fight. And I'm like, I don't like fighting. You know what I mean? If
Yeah,
someone
you're
swings at
way
me,
too
then I'm going to
compassionate.
take care of it. Yeah, you know,
Right.
so, you know, I was like, you know, I was always, I'll never start it. And even if they do, I'm going to wait till they hit me before I do anything,
Wow.
you know? And I was like, that's just not me. Well, you know, I started saying, well, I really miss competing. It's the only thing that made me happy. It gave me like a focus. It gave me like a goal. It forced me to ironically take care of myself, you know, because a lot of things, I know a lot of people may be cursing me, but a lot of things came naturally and easily to me, you know? So I'm like, I really got to work at this. And when I really had to work at something, I felt rewarded when I accomplished it. So next thing I know, I was like, well, before I write this off, let me do some research. I went, because Blockbuster was still a thing back then. I
Wow.
went and
Yeah.
rented like every single UFC DVD I could. I watched all the
Wow.
fights. I studied them. I was watching even the behind the scenes footage and them cutting weight and them talking after fights and stuff like that. And I
Putting it
remember seeing two
together.
fighters talking, yeah, afterwards. And I was like, you know what? They're not angry at each other. They don't hate each other. They're two athletes competing out of respect and skill. And I was like, you know what? I can do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, at that point, though, you know, being out of college and not being an athlete anymore, I had to get back in shape, you know. So I took a bit to get myself in shape. And I got to the point where I could just put some sneakers on, go out the door and run over 5 miles straight and still be fine afterwards. I'm like, all right, now it's time to go find a gym because I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Right.
And around me, it was back in the day when it was still very, very new. So there wasn't really many gyms around. But just through some contacts and networks, a guy I knew from, you know, when I was a bouncer was like, yeah, my brother's a Muay Thai fighter. He's like,
Oh,
he
here
hasn't
we
done it in
go.
years, but
Here
let me
we
connect
go.
you with him. Yeah. So I was like, all right, awesome. And obviously, you know, remember Marco Huas back in the early UFCs, and like Muay Thai is the first thing I wanted to learn,
Right.
you know? So he brought me over to the gym and he basically started training me. And then him training me brought him back into the sport. And then he ended up going up into Manhattan and becoming one of the top instructors under Phil Nurse, who we started seeing in George St. Pierre's corner, um, Frankie Edgar's corner. I don't like saying it because there's a personal beef there from back in the day, but John Jones's corner.
Yeah.
And he started showing up around all these major fighters. And I got to train with him long before any of those guys did. And it was just a phenomenal experience. I mean, they used to have invite only pro fighter training on Fridays sometimes.
Yeah.
I'd be down in South Jersey. I'd get a phone call. Hey, pro fighter training. If you're interested, I would literally drop whatever I was doing, get my clothes, get in the car, and drive up to Manhattan to go train. And the one day I did that, I walk in the gym, and as soon as I look across the gym in the ring, I see George St. Pierre shadow boxing. I'm like, this is going to be cool, you know? So I got to train with him a couple times.
Right. You
It
found
was
home.
pretty amazing.
You
Yeah.
found home. Yeah. Wow. That's an amazing story, bro. It's really fascinating but it's not uncommon, you know? I mean, what is it? How many fighters and how many young people out there right now that are listening to the broadcast or just, you know, people that are just wondering, well, boy, I really would love to get into the sport of boxing or mixed martial arts. And am I too old or what am I doing? You found yourself at the crossroads with a very successful academic career. And then you actually have to, you know, you're at the crossroads and you have to make a choice about what you're going to do. And you chose to go to be an athlete, to be like a professional athlete. And first of all, you know, kudos to you for really chasing your dream and really going after what belongs to you, which is to, you know, live your best life, you know? So really hats off to you, bro. That's outstanding, man. And I just encourage you to continue to do that. You know, I'm looking at your record, right? When I was studying some of your recent fights, I know your last fight was in, I believe it was in April of 2019. Was the last time that you were able to compete in boxing, and the fight didn't go well. And
that was one of those. I wasn't training. I was actually looking for a job out here in California.
there you
So
go.
I wasn't in the gym. I was focusing on the job. And I got pets. And I found out, I was like, I just had a feeling. I was like, something's wrong. Took them to the vet. Like, they have an infection. The reason I have an infection is because they also need oral surgery.
Wow.
And I just went, oh, okay. And I got asked about that fight that morning, and I'm like, listen, man, I'm not in the gym. I haven't been training. I got a vet appointment. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd have to leave in a couple hours. And I'm like, let me think about it,
Well,
because I'm like, man, I got to the vet, and then I was like, I really better take this fight. But I guess that couple hours, they were so desperate.
Yeah.
They called up and they offered me more money and less rounds. And after the estimate from the vet, I was like, yeah, I'm on my way. I had 20 minutes to shower and pack a bag and get on an airplane.
Basically, you took the shit sandwich, basically.
You took the shit and then
sandwich. And it was
a little known fact, it got a lot worse, actually. Yeah, I took a red eye. I didn't sleep on the flight.
Oh, man.
As soon as I land, the guy picked me up from the airport and took me to get all my medicals done. I get all my medicals done. I go back to the hotel.
Oh, boy.
Then I'm like, all right, I get to lay down for a couple hours. As soon as I lay down, they are banging on my door. And because I unplugged my room phone, because I'm like, I don't want anyone to bother me. I got to get some sleep.
Right.
They're banging on my door, and they're like, you got to go get another CAT scan or MRI of your brain. I'm like, I just had one. And they're like, they just said you need to go get another one. And I'm like, well, that's not good.
Right.
So now they drive me back all the way back across the city. I go in there and they do another brain scan. Now I'm wondering what's going on.
Right.
Well, I get back to my hotel room, no time. Now I'm back over to weigh-ins. And then before weigh-ins, the commissioner pulls me in a room, kicks everyone out, and sits me down and goes, they found something on your scan. And I'm like, what? At this point, I haven't slept for like a day and a half.
Wow.
I'm like,
yeah,
excuse me?
Busted.
And he's like, they found something on your scan. It's not from fighting, but you got to get it checked out because it could be anywhere from nothing to like brain cancer or a tumor or something.
Right. Some real thing.
And just dropped this on me. And I'm like, oh. And he goes, I know you didn't have much time for this fight. I know I just dropped some pretty intense news on you. If you don't want to fight, I won't clear you. And I looked at him and I said, I truly respect you, how you're handling this. But fighters got to fight. I said, no, I got to get paid.
Right.
So, and then he tells me, I was like, you know what? Tonight, I just got to get a good night's sleep. I take Klonopin as needed for sleep. I have my script. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take one of those tonight. I'll sleep good. I'll be fine tomorrow. He goes, you can't take that this close to the fight. I was like, what?
Oh, boy.
So then I didn't sleep again that night. So to say I wasn't really there physically or mentally for the fight would be an understatement. But hey, hats off to my opponent. It was the first time in 13 years of fighting professionally that someone ever broke my nose, and it just happened to be the first punch.
Oh, dude.
And that thing, I mean, he was 6'7", so that thing came down from the atmosphere as it was. So it came down. As soon as he hit me, my head turned, and I just went, yeah, that broke my nose. I went right back at him, and he just kept hitting my nose with every single punch. And it's at one point I was like, well, I know I'm not winning this on the scorecards. I knew that going in,
Right.
So I just went, I'm going to take a knee, try and gather myself, and then just go back at it. But he literally just kept blasting my nose, man. The ref just saw too much blood, and he just stopped it. But
wow.
Yeah, hats off to him, man. You know what I mean? But hey, my pet got surgery, and I ended up getting surgery shortly after.
That guy's name was Jalov. It was Bakarov. He was obviously.
From Kazakhstan.
He was from Kazakhstan. He was coming out of Brooklyn. Wow. And they put you right through it. And you know what? I want to stop for a second and just say, to those of you that are listening in, because we have a lot of fighters that listen to the broadcast, and the purpose of this broadcast really, Brandon, is for me to educate fighters on the do's and don'ts and what goes on in the sport in the background, and just try to really be like a voice for them so that they can have a deeper appreciation for what's going on and really know the business a little better. And that right there, what you just told me, is a very, very classic scenario that a lot of fighters find themselves in, and especially when you're being called in, right? And the pressure to take the fight, they offer you a lot of money, they make it work financially to the point, and that was for an NABF junior heavyweight title, right?
Yeah, so a legit title, and I was like, it wasn't even about the title at that point. It was like, I'm going in there. I know I hit hard. I'm swinging for the fences, and what's going to happen is going to happen. It was kind of like you said, it was a bad situation, and I just figured, let's call a spade and go. Let's go see what happens.
Yeah, and that's where your team, having a really solid team and a really good group of people around you to make sure that doesn't happen to you, because fighters are never in the position to really, when things are being offered to them, it's very difficult because you have this pride thing, and then you have this insatiable desire to get paid as an athlete, which is, you don't get paid enough as it is. So there's a lot of, it's like a perfect storm psychologically for a fighter, and it just puts you in a conflict ethically to make the wrong decision every time is what I have learned happens 9 out of 10 times. And so I just really, again, like sharing that story is so powerful from the standpoint that, all of what you said, and then it leads you to a KO, to being stopped in the fight. And what a lesson to impart for yourself, but then also for, all these other fighters out there that find themselves walking right into harm's way and not really understanding what could happen, and you got your nose snapped off, and look, it's just not a good idea, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I lucked out in one aspect. Out of 13 years of fighting professionally at that time, I finally got my nose broken. At least I was in the right place, the capital of the world for plastic surgery. So you best believe I went and found an ENT that was a plastic surgeon down in LA.
Exactly. I bet you did. Your nose probably looks like a movie star's.
Yeah, everyone's like, it don't look like you ever broke it. I was like, yeah, I know. I got a guy for that. That's what I would tell everyone.
That's it. Well, Hart got her teeth busted in her last fight in the bare knuckle, and I'm sure they're going to come out looking beautiful when she finishes. So that's part of the game. It's one of the perks.
Well, the one thing I can say is, I didn't put on a pair of gloves till I was 24, and I knew absolutely nothing about the fight industry.
Oh, that's powerful.
I was doing Muay Thai with a guy that had no pro fighters. And actually, I was training at that guy's gym, but the person who trained me was my friend's brother, who obviously we became close friends.
Yeah.
I was the only person who was training. And, so he was just training me. And then the Muay Thai trainer, I'll say loosely with quotes, whose gym I was at, was like, you should go sign up and do one of these Naga tournaments.
Yeah.
North American Grappling Association.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't have any, Ju-Jitsu or this. I was a collegiate wrestler, but I don't have any of this stuff. And he goes, there's some guys over here at this location, and they got a grappling gym. Go check them out.
Right.
All right. And then he told me to go to the tournament. Had a friend visiting from, I guess, out of the area. So he's like, I can't go, but you should go. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, this guy's not even training me. He's not even going to show up.
Right.
I go to the other gym with the other guys, and, I'm the same mentality, just for anyone that wants to fight. If you're going to walk into a gym and ask someone to train you, couple rules of thumb: be in shape, be serious, be respectful, and be humble. I knew I mean, you could say whatever, your typical like bad guy, like tough guy, whatever. I mean, I've been in a number of scraps, not from wanting to, but from just, I guess, job hazards, being a bouncer. And I just walked in and I said, listen, I want to fight. You tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to take this as far as I can go. And that
Wow.
is the attitude I walked into every single gym with. Even after I was already established and had a bunch of MMA belts and titles, that's still the same mentality that I walk into when I go into anyone's gym.
Yes.
And that's why everyone's been opening doors for me and helping me as much as they have through my career, because I don't go in there with a chip on my shoulder. I don't go in there with an attitude. And when I'm in there, I always help anyone around me that I can give help to if I'm more experienced than them.
That's right.
It's just that martial arts mentality. It's not that Conor
Yeah.
McGregor talking trash and making
Right.
it WWE and all that crap. It's you're supposed to take it back to they say the old school Bushido spirit. You're
No,
competing out of respect and skill in a martial arts.
and
Not
what?
professional wrestling.
You know what, Brandon? I mean, that's a great thing that you just said. I was just watching the. Did you get a chance? Did you see the Top Rank card last weekend? Where Richard Comey.
Yes,
You saw the fight? Okay,
I
so
did.
what just really touched me and what really was so powerful is to see Teofimo Lopez, who we've had on the program. We've had his father on the Boxing Breakdown, but Teofimo, knocked him out at Madison Square Garden about a year and a half ago, and then there he is at ringside cheering him on, giving him hugs, loving on him, and just really showing his support, for a fellow fighter, man. Like what a guy. What, like that, to me, that's incredible. And it was such a wonderful display of sportsmanship and really camaraderie. And we need more people like that in the sport, because that, like, as you say, we fight, and when it's over, there's nothing but respect, when the fight is
Absolutely.
over. And I think that's the lesson for the younger fighters out there. There's a lot of trash talking and a lot of, things that get said for sound bites and to be in the news and this and that. But in the end of the day, it's really to put asses in the seats and make things happen, make things happen monetarily. So, hats off to Teofimo, and congratulations to Richard Comey for an amazing fight at the Bubble on ESPN. I think it was the first Bubble event of the season, and he was absolutely outstanding. Landed a big right hand in the fight to drop his opponent, and it was pretty amazing. Pretty amazing thing to watch.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to be the next Conor McGregor, this and that. But let me just tell you, when you go in trying to tell someone that's already a seasoned professional fighter that you're going to be the next greatest thing in MMA or boxing or whatever, I don't think you realize how insulting you are to that person or even the trainer. And it's happened to me a bunch of times. I had this one kid tell me he was going to be the next greatest thing in the UFC, this and that and everything else. And I'm trying to like calm him down and like be like, just get a feel for him, And he didn't realize that by telling me all these things that he was going to do with basically next to no training ever, just thought he was God's gift to the world, I guess. He didn't realize that as he's sitting here like hyping himself up to an audience of me, he isn't aware of how much I've sacrificed and how hard I worked to even be where I was at the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't know how many couches I've crashed on, how many floors, how many times like I'd have like a $20 or $30 food budget to keep me eating through a week because I spent my money to go to New York City or something to train. You know what I mean? I'm like, they don't realize how much you sacrifice to be able to do what you do. And when you come in like that, you are literally spitting right in someone's face that you're asking to help you without even realizing it. I mean, I was training across the country in Oregon when my brother, he's my only other sibling, had the first, my first niece and the first grandchild in our family from my parents, I was the only one not there when she was born because I was on the other side of the
Right.
country training for a fight. Like,
Yeah.
people don't realize, like, these are times and moments and things that you can never replace, that fighters sacrifice and give up to go out there and see what they can do. And when you just come in trying to tell someone that you're going to be the next greatest thing and all these things you're going to do and you've barely done anything, I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't think you realize how much you can piss someone off and how likely it's going to be that if you aren't that magical God's gift to the world of combat sports, you're probably going to get hurt because you're probably going to piss that person off and they're going to take your head off when you get in the gym.
Yeah, you're going to get hurt.
I'm not going to lie. It took a whole lot of self-control not to kill this kid when he finally got on the mat with me.
Yeah.
And I slowly increased my intensity with him as he still did not humbling himself. I gave him every opportunity. And eventually I hit him with about maybe 40-50% with 18-ounce gloves, and I had a headgear on him.
Wow.
And the kid almost blacked out, fell, hit the mirror, started sliding down, and I caught him. At the end of the training with me, he was like, you know what? I realize I have a whole lot to learn. He goes, I'm not going to worry about fighting right away. I'm going to get in the gym here, learn everything I can, and then go from there and see how I progress. I had so much respect for him after the fact.
Yeah. I mean,
And then he never showed up to the gym anymore.
Well, yeah, because you know what? Everybody thinks boxing is easy until they get punched in the face.
Exactly.
And, when you're getting punched in the face for a living, it's a very, very difficult sport to comprehend. If you haven't been in it and around it your whole life, it is a very intense sport with tremendous sacrifice. People tend to really show belts and the top 5, top 10 fighters in the world in every division, and they get all the accolades. But what the world doesn't know is that for every top 10 fighter or every 10 fighters in the top 10 in every division, there's thousands of fighters underneath each one of those divisions that are scrapping and fighting and clawing to get up to the top. And each one of them are making tremendous sacrifices to be there, right?
Absolutely. And the one thing I can say to people, do not do what I did. I never took an amateur fight. Didn't even have an MMA gym when I started an MMA. I walked in a gym, started doing Muay Thai with one guy, started doing Judo with other guys.
Right.
They never worked together. So it was one gym here, one gym there, no teammates.
Say that again,
I had 5 Judo classes and walked into a Naga tournament, submission grappling tournament.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of 3 divisions because they thought I was more experienced than I was.
Right.
I didn't go in novice. I went in like intermediate because if you had wrestling experience, that's where you went.
Yeah.
And they kicked me out of all these divisions because I thought I was sandbagging. They thought I was much more experienced being at a lower level, just trying to win. I was like, listen, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even have anyone here. The girl I was dating at the time came down there with me. I was like, the president of the organization was Kip Collar. He put it all together and he came up to me and goes, I'm so sorry for the confusion. We would have moved you to another level, but that level already passed. So here's most of your money back. We're really sorry about this because you had to pay to go into them. And I said, hey, man, I appreciate it. I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to cause any problems. I said, this trainer guy said he was going to get me a fight, never got me a fight, so I came here instead. He goes, you want to fight in November? I said, absolutely. He goes, cool, you're fighting in November. That's how I got my start. I trained a couple months with a couple people, no MMA fighters, no team, and walked into my first fight with only a couple months of training.
Yeah.
Didn't realize it was a pro fight till 2.5 weeks after it was over. But I knocked the guy out in 25 seconds, even though I think they recorded it as 45. It was 25 seconds.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I guess I'm a pro fighter. My next fight was selling all these tickets, was getting all this publicity, started getting sponsors. So I took my business background from college.
Right.
I started putting it in towards my career and started like getting some ideas and learning some things, even though I still didn't know how the industry worked. My opponent ended up with a massive staph infection right before the fight. I spent every dime and dollar I had on my training camp. I trained up in New York City. I think by the time I crossed the bridge and got back into New Jersey, I had $2 to my name, a late cell phone bill, a late credit card bill, nothing coming in because I was about to go make money in the fight. The fight got canceled. I'm so up a creek, it's not even funny. In the forums, people that knew me were talking on the forums. I didn't even know about the forums back then. Like the MMA forums they had.
Right.
I don't even know if they're still around or if they have them for boxing, to be honest. I don't pay attention to that stuff. But next thing I know, a friend of mine from college that was all into the forums and stuff saw a promoter post something, saw what happened to me, and goes, hey, does he want to fight this weekend? My second fight was 5 days notice for a title against one of the toughest guys around.
Is this boxing? Is this in boxing?
No,
or
this
MMA?
was back in MMA.
Okay, so
I took it, sold over $5,000 in tickets, walked into the fight, didn't realize I knocked the guy out. He fell into me. I thought he was trying to shoot in a takedown on me.
Right.
So I went to grab his arm, hook it, and throw him into the ropes because it was in a ring. And then when he bounced off the ropes, I was going to hit him with an elbow and have a highlight reel knockout. I went to throw him against the ropes. He fell out of the ring and landed on the floor. I didn't realize the promoter was his manager. He got them to call it a no contest.
So, that's a good. Okay, so that's your fight. That's okay. Just for the listeners out there, that was the world's best fighter, USA versus Asia.
Everyone made a fortune on that card except me, because the guys from China were footing the bill.
Right, and the guy that you fought, his name was John Doyle. Right? Was that the guy? Yeah, because I'm looking at your record. I can see that. So yeah, wow, that's a shame. Yeah, when you mess with the promoter's fighter, and you throw a guy out of the ring, you're probably going to get a no contest or a disqualification.
Even though he was unconscious, there was a picture of it. The photographer got. He was unconscious when he went out of the ring. So basically, that was on him. And if you fall out of the ring, it's the same as boxing. You got 30 seconds to get back in unassisted.
Right.
And clearly he didn't make it, so he should have lost because it wasn't my fault. You know what I mean? Like, he just flopped through the ropes. I didn't throw him out,
Wow.
And, but that's the whole thing. What I can say, the moral of this story is, first off, know the landscape. Granted, it's illegal to have a promoter also be the manager.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah. It's
the landscape.
Listen, man, that I'm not even going to mention names, but that is something that, yeah, man, when the manager or the managing entity, let's just say the managing entity is, in bed with the promoter, you're
set up to lose.
You already heard it. You just heard it here on the Boxing Breakdown from brutal Brandon Barrett. He just told you exactly what's going to happen.
Granted, you can win, but you better knock him out. You better make it really convincing.
Yeah, you've got everything stacked against you not to win in that particular instance. And sometimes you don't even know. Some of these managers, no disrespect to any particular manager out there, because there are some phenomenal managers such as myself, but there's some great managers out there that are doing absolutely a phenomenal work. But you do have to be very, very careful to know what you're doing and to know, who to steer clear from, because again, as you say, when you are, being managed to lose, it's not a good look.
Yeah. And the other thing I can say is, don't take a short notice title fight on 5 days notice in your second fight ever. Cause that's where I started shooting myself in the foot. Cause I didn't know anything about the industry. And, basically I'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, pay me. That was my mentality.
I'm going to make a recommendation. I'm going to create something here right now. I'm going to create that Brandon Barrett is going to write a book on the do's and don'ts of entering into the fighting sports. Okay. That's going to be your book. You're going to write a book and help people out there so they know what not to do.
I mean, I could tell you, it's you're not the first person to bring that up to me, because I've clearly done the hard knocks route for into the
Yeah.
career. My first year of training, I fought for, I think, 3 or 4 titles, because once I fought one of the tougher guys and everyone saw how I handled him and he ended up unconscious out of the ring, all those other guys that I should have fought that were still much more experienced than me, but they weren't better than me, that I should have fought to build my record, not necessarily pad it, but to get my experience by not fighting for a title,
Right.
you know, in your second fight, you know, because you want to build your experience, you want to get used to things and everything. And I skipped all over that because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And I had no one guiding me. So after I fought for, I think, 3 or 4 titles in my first year, and it was all the toughest guys around, and some of those guys ended up in the UFC and being monsters.
Right.
The problem is I couldn't get a fight with anyone because, as you said, we don't get paid really well, especially lower level.
Yep.
And no one wanted to risk fighting me for no money.
Right. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I went for a long time without a fight. And the only fight offer I got was Alex Schonauer, who was ranked 30 in the world at the time, and they gave me 10 days notice to fight him.
Yeah, of course. And what?
You
and
know,
let's see if the listeners can guess what happened. We don't know what happened, but I know what happened. But let's see if the listeners right now can guess. What do you think happened with Brandon taking the short notice fight? What happened?
he was ranked 30 in the world, known as one of the hardest, heaviest hitters out there. I was barely training for maybe a year and a half at the time, and I wasn't really training because I couldn't afford to train when I didn't have a fight. I didn't have the money back then.
Right.
I walked in there, I beat the ever-living crap out of him, and they gave him a split decision.
Wow.
The decision was so bad that I don't know if they cut it out. It's on YouTube. You can actually see Big Dan raise my hand in the ring when they went to announce the winner. And I had the uncut footage. I'm not going to say who I got it from.
Right.
I had the uncut footage where they actually showed the stats from the fight, which they cut out from the video they uploaded and showed on TV a bunch of times.
Right.
I threw twice as many punches. I landed twice as many punches.
Wow.
I had 7 takedowns to his 0, and I was the aggressor the entire fight.
Right.
The only thing he had over me on stats was submission attempts, which isn't a scoring criteria, and he got those after I took him down. He tried submission, I'd get out of it and punish him for it.
Right.
Even he knew he lost that fight because he had his head down, shaking his head, trying to pull away from the ref.
Right.
And they threw me in there short notice to build his career back on track.
Wow.
After that, I couldn't get a fight with anybody because everyone knew I won that fight.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. The better you look, the harder it is to get a fight at that level. At that level, it's not an easy thing. Sometimes you have to look bad to get fights.
And I had to move up to heavyweight. That's how I started getting fights again. I took a fight the day of weigh-ins, not trained, up a weight class. Right. They called me at like 9 a.m. I drove all over the state, got all my medicals done that day, went back home, packed a bag, went to head to Atlantic City. I'm calling guys to see if they could corner me the next day.
Wow.
I get down to the weigh-ins. I get on the scale. Everyone's like, what are you doing? I was like, I guess I'm fighting. The promoter could not get a hold of my opponent's manager because he was over in Germany at the time, and I guess the time difference. So when I got there, the guy that was already training for a couple months for the fight goes, I'm not fighting him. I wouldn't get on the scale. But the guy was dumb enough to call me out like over 2 months later, and I went in there and destroyed him.
Wow.
But I ended up getting avian flu like later that night, the next day after the fight. You know, and that's how I moved to heavyweight.
Yeah. Well,
everyone's like, I'll fight the guy that used to fight at 205 at heavyweight. All right, cool. So everyone's like, I'll fight the small guy. Little did I realize I stopped cutting weight. I put on over 30, 35 pounds of muscle.
Yo, man, you created a roadmap to what not to do. That's what you did. You created a freaking roadmap, you know, what not to do. I mean, you have an extensive boxing background and MMA background. I mean, I think you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have 12 professional boxing matches, and you have a very, very decent record. You've only lost 3 of those matches in very tough divisions. I mean, all those fights were heavyweight. So,
without going off on a tangent, let's just say one of them was against the promoter's guy, and I wasn't only fighting him, I was fighting the ref, I was fighting the commission, I was fighting the entire crowd. And then at the end, the promoter tried fighting me and actually swung at me and hit me 3 times.
Oh, man.
He's lucky that I was raised right, and I knew that hitting him back and falling off the ring onto the chair that was on the floor would have probably killed him. So I stood there as he sat there and punched me in the face 3 times out of nowhere. Why a promoter was punching me in the face is beyond me.
Yeah,
we could have a whole different conversation about that fight, how he fouled me nonstop, how he was shoving me down and the ref was calling knockdowns. There's even a picture of one of the times he shoved me down. My head is out of the ropes.
Wow.
And he's bending down and punching me in the face. And the ref still didn't even take a point, let alone disqualify him.
Wow.
And then when he fell out of the ring, when I blasted him, they took a point away from me. He should have been disqualified. He took over 30 seconds to get back in, and they were all helping him.
Wow.
So I'm like,
I want to watch that fight, bro. I want to put that fight on my channel, man.
Actually, I don't even know if that fight's out there because the promoter got arrested.
Did he?
And had charges pressed on him.
Well,
and that's a whole different thing. But I'll say this.
He deserved
If anyone out there is a lawyer in Rhode Island that's got a set of stones, call me.
Yeah, for sure. There's statute of limitations on that. When did that take place? What year was that?
That was probably 2 years ago, so I still got time.
Yeah, you still got time. Good for you. Yeah, man. You know who to call. It was supposed to be, for the listeners out there. So I have a really, really good friend who is an attorney who's been on the program, and I think he and Brandon also know each other, right?
Oh,
yeah. Okay, so
Paul Haberman.
Yeah,
you know what? We have spoken at lengths about it. He's not licensed in the state up there.
Yeah, he's a great listen.
He's an amazing guy. I've used him for several things.
Oh, yeah.
I will always say Paul knows his stuff.
Yep.
Any fighters, you need an attorney.
Yep.
You reach out to Paul.
Shout out Paul Haberman. I'll take my cut whenever. You can just mail it to me, bro. You have my address. But absolutely, I concur, man. Paul is a stand-up guy, absolutely amazing attorney. If anybody is interested, just hit me up on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at The Boxing Breakdown. And Brandon, what's your Instagram? How can we find you on Instagram?
I believe it's Brutal Barrett.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I really should probably do more with social media. I've just been laying low, but I'm pretty sure it's Brutal Barrett.
Yeah. Well, I know they can also check you out on your website, which is brutalbrandonbarrett.com. And you have a really lovely, really good website where you can learn a little bit more about Brandon and the brutal fighter, man. Your record is, there's some respect on your name, brother. You got a great record. And again, we were talking about padded records versus records of fighters that have learned on the job and the dangers of fighters that know how to fight. So kudos to you. Hats off to you for being able to put together as many fights in both mixed martial arts and boxing that you have, because it's pretty impressive, man. I mean, I look at the stuff all the time, and I just am very impressed, and I hope you continue in your journey, if it's possible, with your fighting, with your boxing particularly.
Yes, thank you. Actually, side note, I was at a 1.5 year layoff because after that fight, I was like, I got to get good insurance.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a job with great insurance. Then COVID happened. So by the time that happened, none of the offices were open. I did end up getting a follow-up MRI of my brain. I'm cleared to go. I'm ready to fight. So that's why I had a 1.5 year layoff. And it was a bit dark times there waiting to get insurance, because if it was worst case scenario, I had a conversation with my brother to the doctor, and I'm like, is it going to matter if I even go to the doctor if it's worst case scenario? Because it could have been really bad.
Yeah, man.
You
No,
know, so I mean, it was a miracle. I was blessed. So yeah, I'm looking to get back in there because, you know, it's at one point, I had one of my guys in my corner actually contact the Guinness Book of World Records to see if he could get me as a record holder for the most amount of fights that fell through or I got ducked. Because when I had some of those fights in MMA, literally, I had one fight with a guy that was destroying everyone. I went in there on short notice, was destroying him, hit a beautiful takedown, got caught on the way down, and just a dumb, horrible luck situation.
Yeah.
After that, I had 3 fights already in the works. After that, every single guy pulled out.
Wow.
I could not beg, borrow, steal to get a fight.
Wow.
So, you know, sometimes an impressive loss can prevent your future opportunity.
Yep.
And that's also why a lot of things on my website don't even really show my boxing, because as I wanted to transition, I didn't want to put anything out there about it.
No, I get it.
Because I don't want the same thing to happen again. Oh, and also my pro boxing debut, I trained 2 weeks of boxing and walked in there. Don't do that.
Yo, listen, brutal Brendan Barrett, what not to do. That's what we're going to call this episode. What not to do in the fighting sports, man. It's, you know, you're amazing because you're going to sharing your story, you know, that's what's up, man. That's how you can really make a difference in the lives of other people, and really hearing what you've been through and what you will continue to go through is just, you know, it's just so powerful. But we keep fighting, you know, we keep getting up. And, you know, I was looking at one of your quotes, and it's a quote that you said, let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Yeah. I'd rather starve than feast on shame.
Yeah.
So
there's
no
plenty of times that I literally was starving. I was hungry, literally, because it was tight. Money was tight in between fights falling through, spending your money on a training camp. It falls out and you're stuck with bills and debt and you didn't get paid. You know, I mean, but I was like, I'm not going to sell myself out and feast in shame.
Yeah. So my recommendation, if I were, if you were in my life as a young fighter, I would recommend that you get as much of an amateur background as possible, right? That's what I would recommend. And then I would recommend that you have a good trainer and a good manager and a good, you know, group of people around you, good PR people to kind of really propel your career forward. That would be my recommendation, that as you are an amateur, you begin to pull the team that you want to be with you through what I would consider a very short professional career, because, you know, even 10 years is short as far as, you know, other careers. Right. So what do you say to that?
I would say it's all about who's around you. You got to have great people around you, the right team that's going to have your back when you fall, help you stand up. Or if they can't prevent you from falling, they're going to have the right information. They're going to look out for you. They're going to know when it's time to take a risk. They're going to know when it's time to not. They're going to know how to get you some sponsors, how to market you to help make sure that you're always fed even when fights fall through. And they're going to take care of you and protect you, and then develop you the way you're supposed to be developed. Not so much padding your record, but increasing your competition as you increase your skills to properly develop you. And honestly, most of my career, I've had some absolutely amazing people help out, but I've never had that set team of people. I've actually even had trainers that cost me massive opportunities.
Wow.
You know, because they just didn't return a phone call. You know, I mean, and then that stalled my career for like another year and a half back then.
Right.
You know, I mean, so the right people in your corner, between trainers, even friends, managers, PR, sponsors, and agent. You make sure you have the right people, because I was doing the job of all of them, and I was spending more time doing my sponsors. I didn't even get a chance to do PR, but people would set up interviews with me and print all my T-shirts, come up with designs, and work with a graphic artist friend of mine who did my website. Shout out to Keith Hubasek. I mean, you know, my website hasn't been updated in a while. He's offered. I said, I'm not fighting right now. I got to get this checked out. Don't worry about it, but we'll probably be talking soon.
Right.
But, you know, I was doing basically everything almost completely by myself. I was selling all my tickets. I was collecting all the money. I was doing the job of a team of people by myself. And then a majority of the time I was actually training myself.
Wow. Yeah.
So
you know, and that's,
you know, you can't spread yourself that thin, because there's so many times, thank God, I hit really hard, because I had a lot of really quick fights and fast knockouts. But by the time I'd get to the fight, there was a fraction of me left that I could actually produce.
Yeah. And you know what? That's called being the cook, the baker, and the candlestick maker.
Yep.
You know, trying to do it all. It doesn't work that way, does it, Brandon?
No, it definitely doesn't, you know what I mean? And then I was trying to get some attention and get some really good managers. And I had one of the top managers in MMA literally flat out telling me, he goes, honestly, I can't do a better job for you than you're doing yourself. I can't even make the money you are for yourself right now. So I wouldn't feel right about signing you. And my response to him was, because you don't want to sign me is more so I actually want to sign with you.
Right.
But he had some personal things going on in his life. So he's like, let me just see how things go, because he was thinking of getting out of the industry, because he had a fighter of his die.
Right.
And he was like, I'm just taking a step back. You always have my ear, you know, and just didn't work out at that time, you know. But it's all about having the right people around you, because say hypothetically everything does fall in place, your career is taking off, you're skyrocketing. You need the right people and the right friends around you to keep you grounded and to keep you humble. The last thing you want to do is lose your head and buy into your own hype, because for a prime example, not trying to hate on anybody, but it's just as an example to learn from, Ronda Rousey thought about committing suicide after her first loss because she didn't stay humble.
You know,
and no one should have to suffer or go through that.
You know what? I just commend you for bringing that up and touching on that, because there are a handful of fighters that I have been involved in that I know need to hear what you just said. And I hope they listen to the program and they really hear what you just said, because, you know, as you climb up the ranks and as you start making money and as you start getting in a position where you're seeing your biggest paydays of your career, you have to maintain yourself, and you have to maintain your skills and continue to grow them, as well as remain humble and not pay attention to what the media and what is out there. Because once you start drinking your own Kool-Aid or Tang, as I would call
it's over.
It's over, brother. And that's the lesson. Don't do it the wrong way. The episode, what not to do. And I just thank you for your contribution to the Boxing Breakdown. I would love to have you on anytime to talk about whatever's coming up with you. And if you're up here in PA, I know you went to Muhlenberg. I live not far from Bethlehem, so kind of right up in that area. And so if you're ever up in the area or you come to New Jersey, I do a lot of officiating in New Jersey. I do a lot of coaching and working within the boxing world in New Jersey. So when you get back to New Jersey, man, you got to hit me up so we can, I want to see what you're like in the gym, get a couple training sessions with you.
Absolutely. It'd be a pleasure. I wish I knew I was going to end up fight when I was in college. We would have met back then.
Oh, forget it, bro. We would have tore it up.
I'll put it this way. And if you're sitting there thinking it's too late for me or anything else, I never threw a punch or put on a glove. I did karate as a little kid for maybe a year or so, but that was nothing. I never actually threw a competitive punch or put a boxing glove on until I was 24 years old.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's
You
what's
got
up.
the dedication, you got the focus, and you got the drive. I mean, anything's possible. I mean,
And everything is possible. Everything is possible. Whatever it is that you want out of it is possible. But you have to have the distinctions and you have to understand how to go about getting it. And then the thing is with you, I mean, you can't tell me anything because one of my dearest friends is Alicia Slick Ashley, who I adore. This girl can fight, man. She will bang you up. She is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the oldest female fighter to ever hold the WBC belt. She is in the Guinness Book of World Records. This girl is fierce. She's an amazing fighter. Shout out Alicia Ashley. And then you got, Professor X. You've got Bernard Hopkins, who fought into, 51, I believe it was. This is for the intelligent man, the man who knows how to work. And in your division, man, heavyweight, bro, you heavyweight is, that's where the money is. So.
Yeah, they pay by the pound.
They pay exactly. So much respect and love, and I hope that you are incredibly successful in your coming year and get your butt back into the gym, bro, because you got a lot to accomplish. And you heard it right here on the Boxing Breakdown. Brutal Brandon Barrett is back. He's going to be training, and we're going to be seeing him on the big stage pretty soon, man.
Absolutely. And hey, the one thing is learn the industry and learn the game. I was blessed to have a very great degree. I did end up going back to college and finishing my degree.
Yeah.
At one point I needed surgery in my career. So when I had surgery, I said, now's the time to go back. Loaned out a bunch more money, unfortunately, but I got my degree. And later on, when I transitioned into boxing, I actually started my own boxing promotion because I learned so much about the industry. Granted, I put that on hold. That's HITM Promotions or Hidden Promotions for History in the Making.
Yeah.
I put that on hold when I moved to California because I said, you know what? My window's closed in a fight, so let me focus on my career because I can always go promote later. I can't really put the gloves on when it's too late.
That's how you do it. You matriculate into the next phase of your career, bro. That's what we do. That's what you have to do. And you're always looking to keep those doors open and looking to matriculate into what's next. It's all about what's next, man. It's about what's happening now and what's next. It has nothing to do with what already happened in the past. It's about the future of Brutal Brendan Barrett. And I can't wait to see what you do with it. You know where to find me if you need me. And I just want to thank you for being on the program tonight. And really, man, it's just been awesome.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. And maybe if this is what's not to do, maybe at some point we'll do what to do in the fight industry.
For real, this is not going to be the last time that you come on my program for sure. That I can promise you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us tonight on The Boxing Breakdown. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at The Boxing Breakdown. You can also find all the episodes at RoxySportsEntertainment.com and / The Boxing Breakdown. Or when you go to RoxySportsEntertainment.com, there's a link right there where you can see all the previous broadcasts, and please share it out with your friends. If you enjoy the program and you feel someone will benefit from the program, please share it out with people. And with that, I wish you all peace and love. Until the next time, Mark Roxy, your host, I'm out.
Fight fans, join host Mark Roxy and special guests as they break down all aspects of the boxing world, including news, business, management, training, promotions, fan reactions, upcoming events, matchups, future boxing stars, title fights, state of the boxing world, and all the stuff you don't see when you watch boxing. This podcast is released each week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streamed on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live. It's the Boxing Breakdown, hosted by Mark Roxy.